All right. Hi, everyone. This is Miss Lewis. I'm here to just really give a little background and then read the prompt, which is always going to look something like this. And so the prompt will have a little bit of background about who this person is if you didn't know, which I think most of us know. Um, a little bit of background about when he gave this speech, which the who is Senator John McCain. So you're going to find out when and where he gave this speech, the context of why he gave this speech, what was his reasoning. And then the underlined part is going to be, and it won't be underlined on the AP exam, but it'll be very similar to this to tell you what to do. And that's always going to be a very similar thing. Okay, so make sure you always read that prompt very clearly because it does give some insight. Um, and this is always the same kind of thing. You're going to talk about the choices that the author makes to convey their message. So, what did this speaker, what was the purpose for speaking? Why was he reaching out to his particular audience? And how was he able to convey that message in an effective way? How was he able to reach his audience? And those devices that you use to talk about, you don't have to name them exactly. If you don't really know the right word, that's not as important because your commentary is going to really explain why you've chosen to pick out these few strategies, these 2 to 3 strategies that he's used to really reach out to his audience and make his argument effective. You're able to describe those things, and those can be in a few sentences. You don't have to narrow it down to one word. Sometimes by doing that, you kind of simplify things, and you don't need to, or rather complicate. You think you're simplifying it, but it's actually complicating it because you're not using your own words to describe what you mean. So I'm just going to say that. I think I've said that on a lot of your essays. We didn't get a lot of time to go back with this actually at all before we went remote. So I really want to, bring you back to September, October and remind you that you don't have to know all of these fancy words. You're just kind of really speaking from almost like your heart. You're speaking from like why, try to put yourself in the place of his audience. Who is his audience and what are the ways that he is able to kind of capture their attention. Okay. And it's always going to be like that. Different prompts, different speeches, but it's all kind of the same outcome that you're going to write about. Okay. So getting into now reading, if you're here just to hear me read it aloud because you're more comfortable with that, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of this recording. So this is essay prompt number 2. The suggested time is 45 minutes. Please try and time yourself as you'll only have that amount of time to write on the actual AP exam. Okay. The prompt is as follows. So again, a little background, then exactly what you're supposed to do. On August 25th, 2018, 81-year-old Senator John McCain died after a year-long battle with brain cancer. McCain represented the state of Arizona from 1987 until his death and was a Vietnam War veteran and prisoner of war survivor. He was the Republican nominee in the 2008 presidential election, which he lost to Barack Obama. Below is his farewell letter to the American people. So again, it's going to be a speech or a letter, really. That's typically what it is. So this is still considered a speech, even though he wrote it out. Now, what you're supposed to do. Read the text carefully, then write a well-developed essay, so typically 3 to 4 paragraphs, in which you analyze the choices McCain makes to convey his message to his audience. And I'm going to write in here 600 to 800 words. I usually would not, that really wouldn't matter, but sometimes if you write a little too little, you don't write enough, it really means you probably haven't explored your analysis as much. So I want you to kind of keep the word count in mind, just in that respect. Okay. So now I'm going to read his speech, the letter that he wrote, and then I'm going to get out and you'll have time to actually think about, click into the document, answer some questions, and then write your full essay. My fellow Americans, whom I have gratefully served for 60 years, and especially my fellow Arizonans. Thank you for the privilege of serving you and for the rewarding life that service in uniform and in public office has allowed me to lead. I have tried to serve our country honorably. I have made mistakes, but I hope my love for America will be weighed favorably against them. I have often observed that I'm the luckiest person on earth. I feel that way even now as I prepare for the end of my life. I have loved my life, all of it. I have had experiences, adventures, and friendships enough for 10 satisfying lives, and I am so thankful. Like most people, I have regrets, but I would not trade a day of my life, in good or bad times, for the best day of anyone else's. I owe that satisfaction to the love of my family. No man ever had a more loving wife or children he was prouder of than I am of mine. And I owe it to America. To be connected to America's causes, liberty, equal justice, respect for the dignity of all people, brings happiness more sublime than life's fleeting pleasures. Our identities and sense of worth are not circumscribed, but enlarged by serving good causes bigger than ourselves. Fellow Americans, that association has meant more to me than any other. I lived and died a proud American. See, I screwed myself up here. Okay. I shouldn't have added that little thing. I'll just get rid of it. So stupid. Okay. Um, Fellow Americans, that association has meant more to me than any other. I lived and died a proud American. We are citizens of the world's greatest republic, a nation of ideals, not blood and soil. We are blessed and are a blessing to humanity when we uphold and advance those ideals at home and in the world. We have helped liberate more people from tyranny and poverty than ever before in history. We have acquired great wealth and power in the process. We weaken our greatness when we confuse our patriotism with tribal rivalries that have sown resentment and hatred and violence in all the corners of the globe. We weaken it when we hide behind walls rather than tear them down, when we doubt the power of our ideals rather than trust them to be the great force for change they have always been. We are 325 million opinionated, vociferous individuals. We argue and compete and sometimes even vilify each other in our raucous public debates. But we have always had so much more in common with each other than in disagreement. If only we remember that and give each other the benefit of the presumption that we all love our country and will get through these challenging times. We will come through them stronger than before. We always do. 10 years ago, I had the privilege to concede defeat in the election for president. I want to end my farewell to you with the heartfelt faith in Americans that I felt so powerfully that evening. I feel it powerfully still. Do not despair for our present difficulties, but believe always in the promise and greatness of America, because nothing is inevitable here. Americans never quit. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history. Farewell, fellow Americans. God bless you, and God bless America. I was honestly like very inspiring, definitely to read during these really, really tough times right now. Um, this was written before he died a few years ago. Um, couple years ago he died, so this was right before that. And I'm certainly inspired. Even if you're not inspired, your job is to kind of put yourself in the place of who his audience is and what they felt when he presented this letter. All right, so let us know if you have any difficulties completing this assignment. And thanks for listening if you did.